you ever felt like there was a core question or theme that just kept following you around wherever you go? Tonight I'd like to tell you about one of these questions in my life, and some of the ways I've seen it pop up. It's the question of how we can simultaneously both relax and engage with our lives. And what I'm referring to is the need to deeply participate in our lives, to connect, to engage, yet without controlling or struggling or striving or holding really tightly onto specific outcomes. In other words, deeply relaxing while also being engaged. And one of the first ways I saw this pop up was when I taught myself how to marbleize paper, which is a craft that's been around since the early 1600s. And among other things, they used it for end papers and marbled books, or regular books, just end papers are marbled. And these days, you've probably seen it on boxes of tissues, reproductions of marbleized prints. They don't really get much attention these days. So one of the techniques that I learned involves sprinkling paint onto a pan of liquid, tapping a whisk against your finger, and then patterning the paint using a variety of styluses and brooms. Not brooms, those are the broom straw whisks. These are combs, not brooms, sorry. So once you've got the paint the way you want it, there's a number of different patterns. You carefully lay down a sheet of paper, and the paint transfers onto the paper. Lift it up, rinse it, dry it, flatten it, and you have a sheet of marbleized paper. Now there's a lot of things that can go wrong in this process, such as the streaks and the bubbles you see here, which are a result of bad technique, moving the paper as you lay it down. But there's also a lot of things you can't control with good technique, like whether the paints float, sink, spread, play well together that day or not. Temperature, humidity, the mystery of the universe has an effect on these things, and I had to learn to just appreciate that. And I came to realize something that I think is true of all art, that it's not about having in mind an exact finished product and then making it happen. It's about inspiration, but it's also about opening up, letting go, realizing opportunities when they present themselves. And so some of my favorite pieces came about by doing that. For example, a whole series of prints that match and I can frame and put on the wall came about by respecting the fact that purple, blue, and yellow were playing well together that day. And my favorite print I've ever done was technically an accident. After you finish a print, you skim off the extra paint with some newspaper, and I noticed this time that the paint was creeping up back onto the liquid in a really neat way. And because I was relaxed enough to see that, rather than just hurrying on to the next print, I laid a sheet of paper down and I've got this. So another way I saw this theme pop up was when I started swing dancing. Again, if you're not familiar, swing dancing is actually a number of different dances, all partner dances, that developed between the 1920s and the 1950s, dance to jazz music. And when I first started going out, it was just a lot of fun. Meeting new people, enjoying the music, acting like a nut. But I came to appreciate as time went on that really good dancing required that ability to both relax and engage. For one thing, swing dancing is improvisational. Even though there's a lead and a follow, you both have input into the dance. And so it's about listening deeply to the music, listening deeply to your partner, and letting something be created in the moment. Also, when I got to the point of teaching swing lessons, I thought a lot about how to explain an aspect of technique called frame, which is how we connect with our partner through our arms into the rest of our bodies. And if we're too tight, it's almost more like we're fighting with them instead of dancing, trying to control each other, that we can't communicate clearly. If we're too loose, it's the same thing. There's no structure. There's no way for my partner to communicate what they want me to do or make a suggestion. And so I realized that even this aspect of frame in dancing technique was essentially a physical version of both relaxing and engaging. And I still can't fully explain it. Still can't fully do it. It's hard to do. But there's actually a way of being in our bodies that is truly relaxed and yet on the spot, ready to engage, ready to move. And so I realized that not only is relaxing, engaging helpful for our minds, but it's helpful for our bodies. And not only is it helpful in the creative act, doing something like marbled paper or swing dancing, but it's helpful in just about everything we do. It turns out that when we're able to do this, we're kinder, more compassionate, more insightful, more effective, happier. When we go to the grocery store and talk to the cashier, with our families at home, at work, at school, everywhere. Unfortunately, this is surprisingly hard to do. We're really good at holding tightly onto things, holding on to fear and hope and having specific outcomes in mind for everything in our lives. And so these days, something I'm interested in are a variety of mindfulness practices that actually train our minds over time to improve in this capacity. And the word mindfulness really just refers to our ability to be present in the moment as it is. Not off in the future or the past, lost in our heads, but experiencing life as it is. And it turns out you can't do that without being both relaxed and engaged. Mindfulness or being present is just another way of saying that. And so these days, I don't go swing dancing or marble ice paper much, but I like to ask questions like, what would it be like if our political debates were mindful? Our schools? Thanksgiving dinner with the family? The possibilities are endless. Suddenly, our whole lives become a creative process. And it turns out there are people in Milwaukee right now doing all kinds of things with this, sharing mindfulness practices in a variety of settings. And so the thing I'm most passionate about now is I'm putting together a mindful newsletter to help spread awareness of the activities, help people get involved. And in the meantime, I ask you all to ask yourself the question, if there's one area in your life where you could afford to be both more relaxed and more engaged. Thank you.